Welcome to Texas Rye Whiskey Studies for the National Rye Whiskey Tournament, episode number 6. This will be the second tournament match. Coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas, where it is currently 100 degrees on August 9th, 2025. What am I doing in this tournament? I am sampling and reviewing between 30 and 40 rye whiskeys, one at a time, but I pair two together. So after I do 2 whiskey reviews, then I put those two together for a head-to-head match to see which one I like the best. So far, I've had one match. Today will be the second one. Basil Hayden Dark Rye beat Alberta Premium in that first match. Both are 80 proof. And now it's time to pit Beam Rye versus Canadian Club 100% Rye. Both whiskeys are 80 proof. What are the rules? I judge these whiskeys on their history, bottle, label, marketing, composition, appearance, nose, taste, mouthfeel, burn, and finish. The deciding factor is if I was offered these 2 whiskeys 5 nights in a row, but I could only have one each night, which one would I choose 3 out of the 5 nights? So it's really all about drinkability. In case of a tie, price, value, and availability determine the winner. And just for fun, I drink these out of blackened glasses. So I don't know which is in which glass, and I want to try to figure out which is which at the end. And also, sometimes at the end, the winner may get a cocktail. Okay, so let's look at the history of these whiskeys. Starting with Jim Beam, they like to trace their roots back to Jacob Beam in the 1790s. The business started as Old Jake Beam Sour Mash in 1795. The distillery was opened in 1820s with David Beam, the son of Jake Beam. And in 1854, David Beam changed the name of the company to D.M. Beam and Company and moved the distillery to be closer to a railroad. Clever marketing. In 1894, James Beauregard Beam took over, and the name of the bourbon then was Old Tub. Until Prohibition, and then the end of all things happened in 1920. In 1933, Prohibition ended, and James B. Beam rebuilt his distillery in Claremont, Kentucky, and began all over. In 1935, his first bourbon was ready, and because he had lost the rights to the Old Tub name, he called it Colonel James B. Beam Bourbon. In the 1940s, the name was shortened to Jim Beam Bourbon, and now Jim Beam Rye. The history of their rye whiskey is a bit more difficult and murky. One source seemed to point to the first rye being released in 1938, but other evidence suggested the 1940s, and basically I have no clear source for the history of this rye by Jim Beam. This edition of their rye, the white label, seems to have been started in 2015. Canadian Club 100% Rye traces their roots back to Detroit, Michigan, really, and Hiram Walker in 1858. He was a grocer who was milling his own flour and distilling his own vinegar, and decided to start distilling whiskey. Unfortunately, the Detroit city government began experimenting with an early form of prohibition, so Walker had to move his business across the river to Windsor, Ontario, Canada. It seems that whiskey, government, and religion have interacted from the very beginning. His Canadian whiskey was marketed to exclusive clubs, restaurants, hotels, and it became known as the club whiskey. But it was so popular that the U.S. had to pass a law that said, hey, any whiskey coming out of Canada has got to be labeled. And so he changed the official name to Canadian Club Whiskey. There you go. This 100% rye was first released in 2014 and proceeded to win some awards. Canadian Club is owned by Suntory. Guess what? The same company that owns Jim Beam. So these guys are cousins. And then to add further complexity, a wrench thrown into this history is that now this whiskey is made at Alberta Distilling, who we looked at last time. And that's also owned by Suntory. Go figure. History winner. While Jim Beam Rye is likely older for sure, its history is unclear, and the Canadian Club Rye has a more definite history, so Canadian Club it is for the winner of history. Bottle label and marketing. Now, as much as I like this Canadian Club bottle and label, the Beam has got an iconic bottle and label. The Beam is also more available in liquor stores. So to that extent, I guess their marketing is better. Although the whiskey distribution system, liquor distribution system is a little bit on the crooked side and complex and stupid, actually. So the Canadian Club, I researched, does have some well-done commercials, a few. Beam, Rye, nah, not a yet, not there. But all things considered, I think I'm going to go with the Jim Beam bottle label and marketing. Okay, that'll win that one. Let's look at the appearance of these whiskeys. In the bottles, they are really close. That's, you know. Now, granted, Canadian law allows for some food coloring to be added, and American law does not. So the Jim Beam is all natural. This one, maybe not so much, but who cares? Right now, they're tied. So appearance is a tie. And sometimes in a glass it looks differently, but I'm having trouble seeing it in the glass at this moment. Composition. Again, the Canadian Club says it is 100% rye. And in fact, a couple of their commercials that I saw online stress that, hey, this is like a Scotch single grain, Scotch single malt. I mean, they said it was like a Canadian single malt because it's a single grain whiskey. So they made a big deal out of that. The guy was wearing a kilt and everything. So I thought that was kind of funny. But, you know, we know what's in here, 100% rye. Jim Beam, not so much. I have seen two different mash bills. One said this is a normal Kentucky rye, 51% rye and 5% barley and 24% corn. So, you know, maybe so. But another one said 55% rye. So there's no clear mash bill released for this one. I know what it tastes like. It tastes like it's a 51% rye. But we don't know. So Canadian Club edges it out for composition. All right, it's time for nosing. And I'm going to start with the one on my left. And again, I don't know which is which. Okay, right away, I do smell something. My nose is very inadequate for the task. Just a vague sweetness is all I'm getting here. Really nothing definitive. One on my right. More vague. You know, this is a tie of vagueness. So neither one of these has a nose that that smells that my nose can pick up. So that's a tie. That's how it goes because my nose is not very good. All right, let's see if we can taste this without coughing my way through it. Starting with the one on the left. Okay. Again, I like both of these. That one seems to have some corn in it. It's got a nice little burn. Get the flavors on the finish too, so a little bit of a finish. I mean, that's good. Maybe just a hint of rye there towards the finish. So I'm actually getting a little bit of rye with this. Very, very tasty, very good. Not sure which that one is. If the corn taste was true, then that's going to be the Jim Beam. All right, the one on my right. That's the Canadian Club. Okay. This is actually going to be hard to determine a winner. I'll tell you that right now. I like both of these. I'll tell you that coming into this match, I was really pretty sure the Beam was going to lose and the Canadian Club was going to win. That was just in my head. See, that's why I have to do this blind. But on that first sip of the one on the left, I got a dose of corn. On this one on the right, no corn. Which one do I like the most, though? Wow. I forgot to tell you, Canadian Club is in glass 1. Jim Beam is in glass 2. I can't see the numbers. They're on the bottom. They're on the bottom. But when I drink these, you can see the numbers. So right now, man, this is going to be one of these times when I declare a tie. This is just too hard for me to choose a winner. I think I can identify which is which. So I'm going to say this is glass number 2 with Jim Beam. Correct. And this is glass number 1 with Canadian Club. Check. And I can't determine a winner. There's no clear winner. So what do I do in that case? Price, value, and availability. And the price on the Jim Beam is, I think, significantly better. The Jim Beam is around $15, I think. Let me see. Yeah, it's $15. Whereas the Canadian Club is $20 to $21, I think. So let me check that real quick. Yeah, it's $21.99, so it's actually $22, and it's just not available. I mean, of the 3 big box stores I shop at, actually 4, 2 Specs, 1 Total Wine, and 1 Goody Goody. It's $21.99 only at Goody Goody. The others don't even have it. So sorry to say, the Canadian Club, which I was favoring, is going to lose out due to price, value, and availability to Jim Beam, because I like both, and trying to figure out which one I like the most just darn near impossible. So we tied on nose, we tied on taste, mouthfeel, burn, and finish, actually kind of lean towards the Beam. Winner is just going to be a tie. The left one was Beam. The right one was CC. So the winner then is going to be Jim Beam on price and availability. And I hate to do that, but that's how it rolls sometimes. Is I like them equally well. Can't determine a winner, so you got to go with price and availability. I mean, if you had a great price and no availability, then what good is it, right? So Jim Beam for the win right here. This is the winner of the second matchup. And that's a surprise. I really favored the Canadian Club because it's been one of my longtime favorites. That's about my third bottle of that I've had. And this is my second bottle of Jim Beam. But so there you go. All right, the winner can get a cocktail. So let me pause this right now and go make a cocktail, and I'll come right back. All right, we are back with an old-fashioned made with Jim Beam Rye, white label, 80 proof. And I've got some maple syrup. With this kind of rye, I prefer maple syrup instead of sugar. And 3 dashes of Angostura bitters, a couple of Luxardo cherries, and an orange peel. So we'll see how this low-proof rye stands up to an old-fashioned. You know what? That's pretty darn good. So, Jim Beam Rye. Oh, come up here, Felix. I've got a cat asking for attention. Come up here. Come on. There we go. All right. Yeah. Jim Beam Rye is the winner of this match. So what's coming up next? Next week, we're going to return to our blended scotches. We're going to start off looking at Grant's Triple Wood. And that'll be hopefully on Monday. I think that's the 11th. All right, for Stab the Dragon Productions, this is Texas Rye Whiskey out here.